Live from Detroit, it's Coffee and Chocolate.
All right, I am back, and this time we are getting back to Vampire the Masquerade. If you're not familiar with Vampire the Masquerade, it is a it's a game about Israel. No, it's a game about werewolves. No, it's a game about vampires, and although it is part of the larger World of Darkness campaign universe, which does include werewolves and fairies and humans who hunt them, all of the above, right? Probably includes Israel and Iran too, actually, I guess. I mean, it is set in the real world. And anyway, I am playing right now we're playing this game, and I'm playing as a woman named Callie. Callie is a young-ish vampire who was and her sire, who in this universe is the vampire who murdered her and then turned her into an undead vampire, abomination. Anyway, her sire has gone missing, and as a result, she's the local vampire council, and they're in New York. So it's called Reckoning in New York, after all. The local vampire council hauled her before them and said, "Look, we think you and your sire have been breaking vampire law. So here's the sheriff, and he's just gonna take your head off and wipe you out. We'll give you your final death, because you already had one death. Now it's gonna be the final one, the ultimate death, right? Okay." And she's like, hey, I'll tell you what. How about no? But let's do this. I'll find you my sire, and then you can do whatever you want to him. And then, yeah. So that's basically where we're at. And she's there are clans in this universe, and she's in the Ravnos clan, and they're kind of how shall I put this in a way that's delicate and sensitive? Vampire gypsies. That's basically what they are. They can't stay in the same place every night. They can't. They have to leave. They have to go someplace different. Something bad happens to them, supposedly, if they do. So they're always moving around, and they're very engaged in commerce of various kinds, I guess. So that's basically that. All right, let's jump to it. And there we go. There's the song track for that. All right, now we can hear everything, and let's proceed. We will hit continue. Night 2, the Anarchy. All right, end the night. December 2024, 5 nights till New Year. Merry Christmas! It's painfully obvious Patrick never believed I'd actually turn up for the meeting. I catch him off guard in front of his haven. He leans against the door, absent-mindedly and yet anxiously spinning his ring while scanning his surroundings. In the seconds when he looks away, I creep up quietly and casually, relishing the oncoming surprise. Peak lack of subtlety, that guy. You're way too obvious with that ring. Someone's gonna nick it sooner or later. His head whips around, and for a split second, surprise and relief flash across his face before he masks it with an ironic smile. Is someone being you, I take it? I throw my hands up, defensively. Hey, if I wanted your bling, your finger would have been bare 2 nights ago. He rolls his eyes, slipping back into his usual indifference as he gets into the car. I hop in right after him. Let's pay D'Angelo a visit, shall we? Yeah. No time to dilly-dally, right? Correct. I'm pretty sure he's ignoring my sharp-ass remarks on purpose. But the way he slams on the gas pedal gives me a tiny glimmer of hope that he's not a lost cause. Either way, the perfectly serviceable vehicle does fine, cruising through the night streets, and this time it's not even that awkward. D'Angelo, you here? The shithole he calls an office looks just the way I left it 2 nights ago. except for some new pins on the corkboard, where he charts his crazy, and a trap door flung wide open, probably leading down to wherever he hides out during the day. Maybe we ought to give it a minute. He won't keep us waiting too long. Yeah, I'm not doing that. It's... Let's keep it in character. Hey, Mr. Detective, a damsel in distress desperately needs your help. And then there's me. Patrick rolls his eyes, but to my disappointment, there's no comeback. D'Angelo squints at me as he emerges from beneath the floor, his lips moving silently, and I strain my ears to hear it. They appeared like shadows, the kind cast by the worn-out hopes and dreams of this wretched city. Dreams that could only be saved by none other than Johnny D'Angelo. Saved? That's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? He leans back over the rickety table, shaking his head as if to dislodge the noir cliches struck in his brain. Callie, a pleasure. As D'Angelo turns to Patrick, I catch a hint of his smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Johnny? Patrick! Looks like you're still losing your head, not just literally, huh? Indeed. The sheriff is yet to relieve me of my cranial burden. But worry not. There's still time until the new year. You might win that little bet of ours. I probably shouldn't pry, given the fact that my own neck's on the line here, but... I mean, there's a treasure trove of a relationship to dig into here. Anyway, we came here to... Corkboard's got an update. These makeshift corkboards are totally plastered with photos, clippings, texts, and maps, all tied together with thin red lines. And unless my memory is as shitty as a squirrel's on speed, this crap wasn't here 2 nights ago. You know, I'd ask you how you two freaks met, but all this red string spider webbing over your crazy map is just screaming for attention. Don't worry about it. Is that the thing you wanted to wrap up before getting the hell out of Dodge? What's it about? Power. Corruption. All the usual suspects in the darkness suffocating this wretched city. I tune him out instantly as he gears for another long noir-esque spiel. It's a story as old as the streets, my friend, and it all started when... Hey, please stop messing with my stuff! I reluctantly drop one of the many scattered pens and put my hands innocently in the air. I'd love to have a catch-up with you, Johnny, but we did have an agenda walking in here. A glimmer of light flickers in D'Angelo's shades as he turns toward me. Hate to break it to you, but if you're on intel von Castle, you're out of luck. No new leads since the last time we talked. It concerns Castle, broadly speaking, although he's not exactly the crux of a conversation at the moment. Oh, sweet lord. Ellie Sansaricq. Where do we find him, Johnny? D'Angelo narrows his eyes, squinting at me suspiciously, and fiddles with his e-cig. The serpent. What's your angle? What are you after? He's my ticket out of this mess. He's like the only one of Raynard's contacts that doesn't seem to fucking despise him. Since our other lead was a bust, he's my best shot at finding Raynard and shaking the Camarilla off my back. D'Angelo tilts his head like some curious, funky, ugly little rat. Damn. Heard through the grapevine you're marked for the chop, but... Shit. Yeah, I'd love to dish out all the dirty details, but I'm seriously pressed for time, so where the hell is Sansaricq? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. D'Angelo takes a long drag of his e-cig as if he's really trying to savor it. I wonder if he actually makes an effort to kickstart his taste buds or if it's just part of his usual act.
Sansaricq and his serpents are gone from Harlem, and nobody really knows why. I got some theories, but they're just that, so, you're just itching to tell me, right? I flash him a dazzling smile, but he just scowls. He takes one more drag to regain his noir composure. What was that old line? Water under the bridge. I give him a curious glance. His answer was just a touch too quick and out there, as if he suddenly got nervous. But D'Angelo speaks up before I can probe any further. Look, I be doing you dirty, throwing you half-baked hints your way. Just text Sansaricq's usual hangouts. St. Philip's and the vicinity of Morningside Park are your best bets. They're not far from each other. You just might dig something up there. Thank you, D'Angelo. Those are solid leads. The faint whiff of sincerity in your bullshit makes it almost charming. I know you're not quite the Glengarry leads you're after. But hey, on these nights, beggars can't be choosers.
Take coffees for closers, D'Angelo.
So, is this intel going to cost me the usual 2 blood bags? Oh, you keep your stash, kiddo. Just clue me on where Sansaricq's hiding once you stiff him out and we're square.
His ugly mug suddenly goes serious. He straightens up and steps closer, eyeing both Patrick and me intensely.
Last time I warned you that shit's gonna hit the fan soon, but that's old news already. It's way worse now. You can feel it, can't you?
I nod instinctively, catching Patrick doing the same.
I'm bailing earlier than planned, and I strongly advise you to consider doing the same. Won't sugarcoat it. I could use a lift, and you could use some level-headed advice on the road.
He looks genuinely terrified. Patrick and I slowly exchange looks before shaking our heads.
I can't. Not just yet. Things are heated, I understand. But at the moment, Callie cannot leave, and I have been saddled with helping her in a way I can only describe as non-negotiable.
D'Angelo sighs, slumping visibly, and waves his hand dismissively.
In that case, just keep your eyes peeled for trouble, all right? Yeah. You too, pal. Until next time, D'Angelo. Hopefully under a brighter moon.
We're almost at the door when I hear his response, barely louder than a breath.
Bright nights are all gone. Only nightmares remain. I should write that down.
Patrick and I come to a stop in front of the perfectly serviceable vehicle.
We should, now, I already know the crap you're gonna dish out. No splitting up, Callie. I can't fully trust you yet, Callie. But listen, it's late as hell already, so we gotta cussle. If we both go chasing Sansaricq in the same spot, all we're gonna catch is sunrise. We gotta divide and conquer. I concur. See, I knew you'd... Well, hold up. What do you mean you concur?
A subtle smirk plays at the corner of his mouth before he reins it in.
I agree. We have too much ground to cover. And since you kept your word and didn't flee last time, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt once more.
I just stare at him, confused as hell, before erupting into laughter.
I don't know you, man. Where's Stick Up the Ass Patty? Who's this loose cannon they replaced him with?
Patrick twitches briefly, his smile disappearing without a trace and fingers crawling toward the ring don't slip my notice. He bounces back swiftly, though, tucks his hands in his pockets.
Let's part ways for now. Do you have a preferred destination?
Let's see. The Dread game. Patrick's driving like he's gunning for his personal best. I'm not complaining, but he's being strangely careless. I mean, this is Mr. Proper we're talking about. What could possibly go wrong? Chasing Ellie at the church. Morningside Park. I think it's more likely he's at the church. And that's because I've got some World of Darkness knowledge here. And I think I remember she called him, or Johnny called this guy a serpent. And if I remember correctly, the serpents are this cult that have embedded themselves in the Roman Catholic Church, right? So the fact that there's a church involved and it's likely he's there, I'm going to bet of the two, he's going to be at the church because that would operate kind of as a home base for him. So I'm going to check out the church. We're going to go there. I'm not going to do this side mission. I don't think the side mission is going to be worth it. It's like Patrick driving carelessly. We'll do another side mission later. But we're going to go chasing Ellie to the church. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's an Episcopal church. That's not a Catholic church. Church of England. God, okay, whatever. Patrick drops me off at the church's entrance and then hurries off to comb through Morningside Park for any trace of Sansaricq. Finding it wasn't easy. Hell, nothing really is outside the usual New York hotspot list, but once you hit the right street, you just can't miss it. It looms large, that huge rose window glaring down at a patch of land which in the warmer months is probably a vibrant green. Right now, though, it's just a dead white blanket of snow. I stare at the church, rubbing my hands together and thinking hard. I guess there's nothing to it. I just have to check this place out, brick by brick, cranny by cranny. The church is bolted up tight for the night, but when does that shit ever stop me, right? Couple of twists, a little bit of elbow grease, and that crusty old padlock snaps open. Ooh, that shifted. I used to have this thought, not too long after the embrace. Every time I went by a church or a chapel, what if I set foot inside and get fried to a crisp by divine wrath? I mean, Raynor did clue me in a bit on how shit works in this twisted new world. He wasn't exactly jumping to teach me anything beyond the tricks of the game. But he was crystal clear that unless I got astronomically unlucky, garlic was nothing to worry about. Still, it took some serious guts to step into a church for the first time, and when I finally did, I didn't burst into flames. But I did stumble upon a missionary who'd made it out in North Korea, and I actually learned a couple of things. First off, seeing a holy cross, like a consecrated one, gives me the heebie-jeezies, a bizarre quirk that's totally unique to me, I guess, since Raynard burst out laughing when I mentioned it. Second, people with that rare, deep, unshakable faith seriously freak me out. They make me feel like a terrified critter in a wildfire, doom hot on my heels. Before I got embraced, I never really picked a lane about this kind of stuff. I guess being undead decided it for me. So if I'm going to meet my final death, it's going to be in a blaze of glory doing something awesome, reckless, and highly entertaining. Not because I got singed by holy water. There's not a soul in sight, just a shit ton of rats. I mean, sure, they're the sort of unofficial mascots of the city, but this place is crawling with them, and they are huge, fat as fuck, as if they ate like kings. I have to step carefully because I've already dodged a few outraged squeaks and attempts to bite my ankles. At least no crucified Jesus is hanging around anywhere. Guess even he has to crash at his buddy's place when his pad's getting a makeover. It takes me a while to thoroughly search the premises and confirm that Sansaricq is indeed elsewhere. Honestly, it's hard to tell if he was ever here at all. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, I stumble upon a notice board cluttered with scraps of paper, parish notices, holy pictures, and what looks like handwritten prayers. As a connoisseur of the weird and the wonderful, only one prayer catches my eye. Its paper oddly untouched by the time's passing. It's so glaringly out of place that I can't help gently pulling it off the board for a closer look.
north of the heavens, his grand celestial shrine, brother in the Lord, united by blood divine, island blessed by his touch, where saints and angels shine. Well, I guess that's what local publishing does to poetry. I'm hit with this weird urge to share this find with Patrick. I wonder if he'd be puzzled by the text, or just crack a smile and start rattling on about its true meaning. Guided by that impulse, I tuck the prayer into my belt bag. Then, as on life goes, I promptly forget about it, especially when a whole swarm of rats burst out of a crack in the wall, their incessant chittering filling the air. But what piques my interest is a trap door right next to the crack, its outline barely visible against the dusty flooring. Where could it lead? There's a sudden itch to get the bottom of it, literally and figuratively. I need to find out, to explore the unknown, the perilous, the hidden. Overwhelmed by a fierce curiosity, I scramble to my hands and knees like an animal, groping toward the trap door for any handle, lock, or leverage point I can find. Sure enough, there's a small handle, but no lock. Just a narrow slit where the trap door doesn't quite fit right. I shove my fingers into the slit and find out it's been bolted shut from the inside. The question of how someone locked it barely registers as the bitter taste of disappointment and frustration floods my mouth. Only now I notice voices drifting in from outside. They're distant, so it's tough to tell if they're a threat or just some dudes on a late-night booze cruise. But this barrier, this delayed gratification, it really fucking pisses me off. Uh-oh. Feral whispers Pied Piper was spun on. Better not take unnecessary risk. I need to get in. I need to get in. All right, we need to get into this thing. Before I can suppress the feral urge, I find myself snarling like a beast, tearing the door apart in a fit of uncontrollable rage. It yields to my unnatural strength as easily as soggy cardboard, and soon I've got enough grip to just rip the trapdoor off its hinges and fling it aside, without a second thought. I look into the yawning darkness beneath. Perhaps it leads to the crypts, or some other intriguing underground parts of the church. Not that it really matters. The narrow passage is jam-packed with corpses. They're in various stages of decay, and they've all been gnawed on by the rats. They don't look like anyone in particular, but then again, it's hard to tell with their flesh full of holes and tears. Some of them may have been bitten by a fellow kindred, with what looks like puncture wounds on their necks. These marks are well hidden, though, concealed among the countless rat bites. Right as I fully snap back to reality, the voices grab my attention once more. This time they're louder, more urgent, coming from the vestry. Shit. No fucking chance I'm waiting around to find out who they belong to. I leave the trapdoor open and hurry toward the exit, the figures under the rose window taunting me as I bail. I hate leaving things in such a mess. Didn't find much in the way of clues, but it'll have to do. I leisurely approach the meeting spot, just in time for Patrick to pull over. And so I gracefully get in the car, closing the door behind me. Fingers crossed he snagged a better lead than I did. Well, so any updates on your end? Sansaricq wasn't chilling in the park, was he? No luck there, unfortunately. It was a dead end. I notice a slight twitch in his right eyebrow. Is he pissed about wasting time, or is it something else? How about you? Did you find anything at the church? Not really. Yeah. Unless Sansaricq turned into a rat, then yeah. There were a ton of little Sansaricqs running around. Could you be more specific? Yeah. It was a real shit show down there. Someone's dumped a whole bunch of bodies into the crypt. I would have checked the bodies for some ID, but these sketchy types were hovering around the church, didn't stick around long enough to see if they were on the hunt. I see. That's a level of reasoning I wouldn't have expected from you, to be blunt. Still, it's a welcome surprise, despite how poorly your investigation turned out. Was there anything of note other than the rats? Oh, now that you bring it up. I pull out the handwritten prayer that I found on the notice board. Check out this prayer here. I figure he'll skim it while multitasking, but nope, Patrick immediately pulls over. Safety first, huh? What a guy. What do you make of it? I'm not sure. It just caught my eye, a clean piece of paper among raggedy scraps. Patrick reads through it carefully a few times, and I could swear I see a light bulb go off over his head. I reckon you were onto something, Callie. Here, pay attention to the first words of each line. I lean in closer. North. Brother. Island. Huh. Interesting. It's one of those islands in the East River. Fairly bleak spot, which fits the ministry to a T when you think about it. We both sit in silence for a moment as he absently spins his ring, looking downright miserable. So this is our best shot, I guess. Sure seems that way. Better step on it. We don't have that much time before sunrise. I wonder if I should have done the side mission there. That probably would have added something. Oh, brother, main quest. It may not seem like much, but with all the loose ends strewn around us, we finally snagged a solid lead. North Brother Island's not the liveliest spot, but hey, it's totally the ministry's style, if you ask me. Alright. Alright. Let's do that then. Let's keep going. I used to be one of those kids who was always running around and stirring up some shit after school. Shocking, I know. One of the favorite pastimes of my gang of little rascals was exploring the ruins of an old hill hospital at night. Well, exploring might be a bit of a stretch. We never actually got inside, just dared each other to stare into the windows for as long as we could. Usually I was the last girl standing, but let me tell you, those hours after dusk in the fall, when every whisper of the wind, every rustle of the trees was multiplied by 100, they were torture. Now I kind of miss those days. So when Patrick and I hit the wrecked pier of North Brother Island and see the derelict buildings nearby, I almost squeal with delight. Almost. The ambience is pretty much ruined by the shiny new RIBs moored along the pier. Some of them had clearly been used in the last few hours, judging by the mud and melted snow on the seats. Just to make sure we're on the same page, what exactly is your connection to Sansaricq? You know what? Let's call it straight up. So you know I deal on the, let's call it the darker side of the web, right? It has come up, yes. Sansaricq was technically Raynard's client, but I was the one handing all the sketchy stuff he requested. Never met the guy or anything. Everything always went through Raynard, but Sansaricq is the only client I know by name. I see. You mentioned before that he and Castle had a relatively good relationship. How do you plan to exploit that? I snort, half pissed that he knows me too damn well, half amused by that good relationship crap, since all it means is they didn't actively try to kill each other. I'm about to break it down for him, and when suddenly we're cut off by gunshots, and they're getting closer. We duck down and observe some guy comes tearing out the pier, screaming his lungs out in terror. He's running backwards, tripping over every bump while desperately trying to shoot at something in the trees, unaware that his magazine has been empty for a while. He's decked out to head to toe in urban warfare gear reminiscent of the hunters I had the pleasure of meeting a few times lately. He hasn't noticed us yet, blinded by his delirious fear. Perfect moment to strike. Yeah, let's do it. Why not? My footsteps are silent on the compacted snow as I sneak up on the guy, quieter than a ghost. In a flash, I knock the gun from his hands. Before he even knows what hit him, his scream is choked off by a soft, surprised moan as my fangs sink into his corded neck. I'm not picky when it comes to feeding, but fuck me, he tastes vile. High on adrenaline, muscles burning with lactic acid from his panicked run. It's a weird feeling, the bliss of satiation mixed with the disgusting taste of my meal. I drink enough and lay his body onto the ground, wiping my mouth off with a disgusted grimace. All done. I resist the urge to spit. Yeah. Oh shit, he was foul. He did look the type, yes. If those were Sansaricc's ministers who pushed this poor bastard to the edge, I'm not exactly eager to meet him myself. Patrick nods, looking at the lifeless body. He makes no move to hide it, so I don't bother either. We share a quick glance before sneaking cautiously through the thicket toward the ruins looming over the bare trees. We tread carefully through the bushes, mindful of the crunch of the snow underfoot, but let's be honest, the distant gunshots would have covered the sound of a stampede. Although the shooting has died down in the last couple of minutes, and replaced by blood-curdling screams of torment. We stumble upon several corpses, and surprisingly, a decapitated skeleton with scraps of decomposing flesh still clinging to it. The murder of crows feasting on the scene couldn't care less. To them, carrion's carrion. It gives us both some pause. Those fuckers. The screams are almost drowning out the gunfire now, suggesting that the ministers might be gaining the upper hand. Better them than the hunters. I just hope they don't mistake us for enemies and decide we deserve a similar fate. Great, Callie. You've got yourself right in the middle of a fucking war zone. The whole city feels like a battlefield these nights. It's just our luck we arrived right in time for the hostilities here. So what's the plan? We could try sneaking past, hoping the hunters are too busy with the serpents to notice us, or... Look, over there. There's a spot under that collapsed floor where we could hide out and wait for this to blow over. Patrick cocks his head, pondering, twirling his ring. Not in a panic this time, but more like using it to focus. Huh. He drops his hand and looks at me calmly. I say we go with whatever your daredevil instinct recommends. Are you sure you didn't hit your head on the way over here? Positive. Let's score some points with Sansaricq. This isn't our fight. Huh. So... remind me of my situation. Disciplines. 1 animalism, 2 presence, 2 obfuscate. I'm guessing animalism would have been the combat one, right? She can hide and she can persuade, so that's what she's going to do. We're not going to go into a fight here. This isn't our fight. I mean, this isn't our fight, right? No harm in letting them tear each other apart. Let's just hide. Very well. Ever the gentleman. He heaves himself first onto the half-collapsed surface, and then reaches down to help me up. We make ourselves comfortable among the darkness and rubble, and observe the room below with bated... Well, honestly, we're pretty damn eager to see how it all goes down. Cloak of Shadows. Better safe than sorry. I can only have 1 dot there. I thought I had 2. Interesting. Better safe than sorry. I'm not taking any risks of being spotted, so I pull the air over myself like a cozy blanket and watch. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Patrick following suit. For a while, nothing happens, and I already get my usual itch to run my mouth, or maybe throw a pebble across the concrete floor just to see what happens. Thankfully, I don't have to wait long for the show to start. A squad of hunters barges into the room, barking orders, all clad in some kind of military gear, guns pointed everywhere. They frantically look into every nook and cranny, through the door, out the window, everywhere their paranoid minds suspect we might be hiding. But not up. None of them ever think to look up. Maybe they can't, pigs that they are. The hunters move to leave the room, when suddenly I see a loud ting, and the guy in front of the door looks like he's about to lose his head. And that's exactly what happens. His head is severed by a cut so clean that his body stands dumbly for a moment before crumpling onto the ground. Behind stands a group of serpents, all decked out in leather and gold. Scary as fuck. For a split second, the room goes deathly quiet. And then all hell breaks loose. The hunters and serpents clash with each other. Gunshots echo, cries fill the air, and blood flows freely. It's all over in less than a minute, and the kindred, predictably, emerge victorious, leaving one last victim unscathed. The silence that falls is so oppressive that it almost buzzes in my ear. I start to think I've gone deaf, but I see Patrick checking his ears, and I relax a little, relieved that I'm not the only one so overwhelmed. The serpents don't move, don't speak. In this heavy silence, filled only by the scent of blood, the sound of approaching footsteps echoes like thunder. The man who enters the room is barely my height, but he carries himself with the grandeur of a king, the ruthless ruler of his domain. Sansaricq, the most powerful snake himself. From the silence of his movements, it is instantly clear that his thunderous entrance was all for show, an intimidation, a warning. Magnanimously, he was giving the assailants a chance to flee in disgrace, or letting them scatter for a more interesting hunt, more likely. Hell, I'm not sure why Patrick and I just didn't bolt. The last remaining hunter tries frantically to crawl away, but he collapses under Sansarick's steel-capped boot. That's when I realize why the serpent is walking so oddly. He's dragging a dead hunter impaled on the enormous claws protruding from his fingers. The body slides to the ground with a hollow thud. A kindred who seems to be his child? His second in command? Hands him a clean handkerchief, which he uses to wipe the blood off his hands, and then he promptly flings it onto the corpse. Standing over the whimpering hunter, he surveys the mortal with sheer disdain, then tilts his head to make direct eye contact with me. Judging by your skulking in the shadows like frightened kittens, I gather you played no role in tonight's hostilities, correct? His presence is overwhelming, igniting a flash of self-reflection. All the choices I've made in life and unlife were wrong, and I should be ashamed of myself. But I see Patrick nod leisurely, owning our strategic cowardice, so I lean into his confidence and reply. Better frightened kittens than dead ones, right? But yeah, we did take one guy outside if you want a body count, sir. What I need from you is to step down here this instant, unless you fancy being dealt with as foes. Patrick and I look at each other and lower ourselves slowly onto the ground. Sansarick's gaze locks on me, unblinking. His posture is rigid as a cobra. His stare is so intense it almost makes me sweat, and if I could sweat, that is. And if I weren't so damn used to pressure. I try to appear relaxed and confident when he lets out a short, sharp whistle. Instantly, two of his serpents lift the last hunter, propping his limp body onto a standing position. But Sansaricq doesn't spare him a glance. His eyes are fixed on me. He's been a real annoyance, this one. Quite the rogue. wouldn't you say? Of course you would. Why don't you teach him a lesson? It's clearly not a question, and the only acceptable response is a dutiful yes, sir. Lingering kiss? Dawn. We got two. We'll do the 2 one. The perpetually spinning cogs in my head go into overdrive, looking for a way to impress Sansaricq. What do I know about him? He'd relish a show of power, that's for sure, but in what flavor? Cruel? Formidable? I'm running out of time, and I feel my excitement rising like the tide, and the itch to do something dangerous and reckless returns with suffocating strength. I seize the whimpering mortal by the hair and plunge my fangs into his neck, letting my powers surge through me and into his flesh during our unholy communion. I drink his blood, reveling in the way it temporarily quenches my hunger. Most of all, I make it feel good, electrifying, unparalleled. No, don't! This hunter won't last long without yearning for another kiss. Just like a man stranded in the desert would beg, maim, kill for a drop of water. He would do anything, everything, to satisfy this need for more. At least for a time. I detach myself from his neck and gently lower him to the ground, his eyes glazed and vacant. His hand trembles as it reaches for his throat, fingers tenderly brushing the bite mark with a mix of longing and astonishment. I step back, giving Sansaricq a smug, expectant look. He gives a nod. Interesting idea, making a hunter addicted to what he hates as much as he fears. I nod, thankful for what I guess is a compliment. Sansaricq's snake-like eyes finally shift from me to that pathetic pile of crap on the ground that used to be a proud hunter. But it's not enough. He approaches the hunter slowly, lazily, and then with both hands lifts the mortal off the ground by the shoulders. I watch from the sidelines as Sansaricq's bearing changes completely. Gone is the relentless intensity, the danger, the zeal. His eyes look soft and sweet when he locks them with the hunter's and murmurs something into his ears, gently as if soothing a frightened animal. I watch with increasing surprise as the hunter melts into Sansaricq's arms and embraces him, sobbing into the crook of his neck and clawing desperately at his back as if trying to draw him closer. It looks intimate, reverent, an encounter with the most beloved divine. Sansaricq carefully pulls away, ignoring the hunter's clinging hands, and fishes out a hand grenade. Return to your patron. Make him see the error of his ways. The hunter gets up, feet unsteady, and limps away through the door and into the cold darkness. His gait is awkward and clearly uncomfortable because he doesn't, not even for a second, avert his worshipful eyes from Sansaricq's face. Come. He struts toward the pier, his entourage obediently in tow. And of course we're dragged along too, thanks to an overly persistent serpent who thinks shoving us is somehow necessary. It's not like we have a choice, right? With no more distractions, the path seems way shorter than I remember. I can see one of those RIBs bobbing on the East River in the distance. Must be that charmed hunter off to show his boss his night. Now. Sansaricq turns to Patrick and me, sizing us up with an icy glare, but even though his tone regains that frightening intensity from before, there's now a hint of benevolence. You have the misfortune of catching me in a nasty mood, but if you provide an acceptable explanation for trespassing on my turf, I might just let you go. Well? I flick a glance at Patrick and catch his subtle nod out of the corner of my eye. Name's Callie, and this here's... Oh, I know who that is. The Baron's lapdog. The court's errand boy. I'm more interested in you. Gotta say, being in this kind of spotlight does not boost my confidence. I'm Raynard Cassell's child. I run with his coterie, and I know you've had business relations with him, and I was actually the one who rushed the delivery of those trinkets you wanted. I didn't realize Sansarick's face could grow more sour, but here we are. His lips curl down, he knits his eyebrows, and he glares at me like I kicked his cat. But then, unexpectedly, he throws his head back and laughs. Loud, free, mocking laughter that makes me lose my cool. It slows, and he's back to staring at me coldly, unblinkingly, perfectly poised. I haven't heard from good old Ray in months, child. Whatever you think you procured from me went to someone else's hands. He falls silent, and then his serpent eyes narrow. Do you even know what exactly it was that you acquired for him? My silence is his answer. Not gonna lie. His words hit me hard, and I'm a little flustered. Reynard rarely deigned to share his plans with me, but it wasn't like he made a habit of lying straight to my face. Why would he hide it all from me, specifically? As Sansaricq makes yet another disparaging sound at me, Padrick clears his throat and shifts the Setite's scalding focus onto himself. Would you mind telling us about your last dealings with Cassell? Any information could help. I roll my eyes at this stiff and obvious attempt at wheedling info out of Sansaricq, but he only smirks, and then sighs as if thinking about Reynard brought him some great anguish. Which, admittedly, it might. Nobody really thinks about Reynard unless they absolutely have to, and by that time it's too late. I don't mind. Though I must say that brat truly was insufferable. Fixed on the antediluvians, like a child, obsessed with a new toy. The original 13 clans. What is Battlestar Galactica? I'm staring at him, totally lost. Antediluvians? That's a first. What did Reynard even want with them? And why did he go asking the ministry? As if reading my mind, Sansaricq tosses me a sharp look and continues. How he came to learn that my clan, me in particular, holds knowledge of our most ancient ancestors is a mystery to me, but seek me out he did, asking numerous questions about ancestry, power, and blood. I jump a little when he waves his hand dismissively after such a long period of standing still. Let me be perfectly clear. The history of Clan Ravnos was never of interest to me, and I had little desire to discuss it. Neither had Reynard until a few months ago. What prompted his interest in these topics, I haven't the slightest. But I'd bet the promise of profit was his primary motivation. What I will say, however, is that his focus on, how did you put it, business relations waned significantly. Well, that's news to me as well. As far as I know, it was pretty much business as usual all the time. For the first time in our conversation, Sansarick's face twists into the picture of true savagery. No more pleasantness. No hints of courtesy. Only anger, relentless and feral. Reynard Cassell has been slipping in his promises, O child of his. I am done graciously waiting for reparations. I sneak a look at Padrick and see him nod at me encouragingly. So I collect all the broken and uncertain pieces of myself and put them back together again. You can do it, Callie. Be charming. Be careful. Be calm. Never make promises, even those you intend to keep. I get it. So, let me speak plainly. Reynard's missing. Whether he's gone for good or just lying low, I can't say. No one's been able to reach him. I think he's out there somewhere hiding, but he's off the radar. You've got your ear to the ground. Heard anything about Reynard in the last few nights? I have no interest in that brat in so much as the objects he swore to procure for me. And since now I'm aware he had no hand in obtaining them, it is high time that I move on to greener pastures, don't you think? especially since I know they intend to deliver. Yes? Sansaricq almost seems like he might lighten up with a wink, but no, his expression snaps back to its usual icy detachment as he leans forward, his gaze as steady and chilling as a snake's. Reynard Cassell messes with powers beyond his ken. I would not be surprised if this sudden uptick in hunter activity was linked to his actions, one way or another. I wait, hoping he'll elaborate on this strange and frankly insulting connection he's implying. But it seems he considers our discussion done. He straightens up and signals to his second-in-command, who quickly moves in to receive his whispered instructions. There's no way this can be all we take away from such a critical meeting. I catch Patrick's eye and subtly move closer to him, ensuring our next words are shielded from any serpent ears. What's our next move? Sansaricq's clueless about Reynard, too. Just messing with dangerous shit. Great, tell me something I don't know. What now? He hesitates. Does it bother you? The Cassell has been undermining you and reneging on commitments that involve your work. Yeah, kinda. And by kinda, I mean a hell of a lot. I know he's no bastard, and he's a bastard, and I'm no saint, but we had this unspoken agreement that we're not going to screw each other over, you know? I see. Shall we take our farewell, then? Hold up. There's one more thing I need to ask. I back away from our little huddle and cough to gain Sansaricq's attention. He acknowledges me, but he takes his sweet time wrapping up his chat before shooting me an impatient look. Just one more thing before we scram. The circulatory system seems to have taken a hit list, and Reynard's sitting at the top. Any clue what that's about? Sansaricq's eyes narrow in anger and contempt. Color me astonished. He was blabbing on and on about his latest illustrious benefactor who could help him circumvent the red market. He makes such a sour face that if we were mortals, I'm sure he'd be spitting in disgust. Seems like he ended up on the bad side of that slumbering bitch on the Hudson. Good riddance with that. I'm utterly lost here. Who do you mean exactly? My attention remains fixed on Sansaricq, but I can't ignore the abrupt, frantic motion of Patrick violently spinning his damn ring. Sansaricq gnashes his teeth and a low, seething murmur ripples through his followers. The Tzimtzibitch, Bretria, or whatever the fuck her name is. You don't know her? Then count your blessings, child. What's her deal? Her deal is that she waltzes in like she owns the place and steals what's been rightfully ours for decades. His eyes blaze with a pure yellow light, fangs elongating as his jaw loosens in a furious scream. I swear I catch a glimpse of a forked tongue flickering back into his mouth as he calms down, regaining his usual captivating appearance. I add 2 and 2 and realize this Vritra must have been the one who ousted the serpents from their turf in Harlem. I shoot a knowing glance at Patrick, but he's too fixated on that damn ring. So I press Sansaricq a bit harder. I wonder what kind of relationship Reynard has with Vritra. Do you think... I do not think about her, child of Reynard, nor do I wish to start. My time is precious. We are done here. So much for that. Sansaricq fully turns his back to me, conferring with his serpents. I strain to hear their whispers, not even out of need to hear what they're saying, but more out of sheer curiosity. But Patrick gently tugs my sleeve. I think our meeting's over. We should leave before Sansaricq drives himself off his turf. Wish we got more clues. Yeah, we're leaving empty-handed, huh? Well, At least we confirmed Sansaricq has nothing to do with the disappearance. Let's discuss strategy once we're gone from this place. I nod, clear my throat loudly, and speak without waiting for Sansaricq to face me. Thanks for not throwing us out sooner, Sansaricq. And for the info, too. We will get out of your hair now. I spin my heel, but his stare halts me dead. You should leave the city, child. Looking for that sire of yours will yield nothing but death and ruin. And if your leaving means that brat digs himself deeper into his own shit, he gives me a smirk, then I might be willing to lend a hand. I'm ready to snap at him, scream in his face that I don't need his goddamn pity. But then it hits me like a freight train. He's not offering help out of sympathy. He'd get off on watching Reynard suffer. But his offer? It's this weird mix of prickly kindness, something you'd hardly ever see in our kindred world. And it's that fucked up kindness alone that keeps my mouth shut. So instead, I give a silent nod and hook arms with Patrick as we dip out of that decrepit building into the frigid dead of night. All right. I think that's enough for the night. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant night, wherever you are. And stay calm, stay cool. And we'll see you all on the flip side.